Alright, what's up? This is GMAC. This is going to be a quick one. This is episode 2 of the ICT Bootcamp, or just Trading Bootcamp, however you want to look at it. But this is going to be going over mindset. The proper mindset that you need to be, going after. And what I mean by that is there's a lot, especially when you're new, there's a lot of misinformation. You have to have realistic expectations. People show you the nice cars, the money, whatever. And, it's real easy. You hit a few buttons, you're buying, you're selling, and you could get, especially if you get lucky at first, it's real bad. But you have to think in probabilities. And, I think it was Trading in the Zone. I read that book, and that's basically what I got from it was you have to think in probabilities, meaning you have to know your data. So when you're new or you're trying something and you're back testing, you really have to keep track of your data, because having the proper mindset is going to keep you from going on tilt, because okay, I lost this trade, but I know after I take 20 trades, 12 of them are, going to be winners. I have a 60% win rate, or I have a 55%, or a 70, whatever it is. It's going to keep you, from blowing up. So you got to think like a professional trader. You cannot think like I did last quarter, where I lose a trade and you got to get it back real quick, because that's going to be your first reaction when you take a loss, is you're going to be wanting to get it back real quick, because you're going to want to get back to your equity highs, and you want to get it all back, and then you want to add some to it to get that payout, or to get that certificate, or whatever it is. But you have to be professional. You have to have a business type approach to it, meaning that you got to think in the long term. It can't be today. You need to set a daily loss, and you need to keep yourself from getting emotionally charged and becoming impulsive and overreacting, pretending like this trading day is encapsulating your entire career. Because I know that's what I do. I'm not talking at you. I'm trying to give you advice to try to have the proper mindset from the get-go. I mean, ICT tells you this, and I listen to it 100 times, but until you go through those emotions and go through the loss, or maybe you can learn better than I did, and you don't have to go through all the losing and all the blown accounts and all the, I was one good trade away from a $10,000 payout, at a drive-through at a fast food restaurant, and I went on tilt on my phone and lost every bit of it. That's just, it sounds ridiculous, but if you've been in this game long enough, you know how real, that can be. And so we just got to be, you always got to be, mentally in the game. If you're not, just lock out. If you got stuff going on with your significant other, or you're stressed out from work, or your kids are constantly running around, you can't get any quiet time, just turn the charts off, because it's not worth it. Skip a day, skip a week. You do whatever you got to do to get in the right frame of mind. To get in the flow, look at the markets, look at market conditions. Has your strategy presented itself? And if so, are you able to execute in real time? And that's what you got to be shooting after. So the biggest thing is just not going on tilt and over trading. That's why I set a daily loss. And I know my data very well, so I know that in the long term, I'm going to come out on top if I can just keep myself from having those revenge trades, going on tilt, and having to start over. I'm getting tired of starting over. So I want you to think like a professional. I want you to think in probabilities. I want you to think long term. That way, when certain situations arise, like a losing streak or a lost trade, or you took profits too early, or whatever happens, that you're prepared for it. Because a lot of this, yes, you have to have a technical edge. Yes, you need to understand, market sentiment, as well as the technicals, as well as what's going on, red folder news, fundamentals. There's a lot that goes into it. But most people can get a good strategy and execute it in real time. But the variance comes in to when you lose. How do you accept it? So if you really think about it, if you think long term, knowing that over 100 trades, 58 of them are going to win and 42 are going to lose, or whatever that number is, that will ease your mind when you take a loss. And it's easier said than done. Like I've said 10 times already, I have to set a daily loss for me, because every time I think I'm there, I'm not. And I was like, well, I just lost 250, let me try another one. Oh, I lost 500, let me do another one. Oh man, I've lost this, I got to get my account back. And when you start thinking like that, unless you just get lucky, yeah, you know what happens. You're going to blow up, you're going to be resetting, you're going to be starting over, and that's not a good feeling. But say you do that, that's okay. And in your journal, you don't need to beat yourself up. In your journal, you need to acknowledge what you did wrong and be like, this is a fantastic learning opportunity for me to never do this again. Don't be negative. It's easy to be negative. It's easy to beat yourself up. It's easy to do all that. But what you're doing is you're scarring yourself, and you're going to, it's not going to do any good. You're going to self-sabotage when you're ready to flourish, and it's all going to come back to just how you talk to yourself. And that's, a lot of self-love will come from that journal, as corny as that sounds, but it's the truth. So, really want you to think like a professional, really want you to be positive even when you're not doing good, to yourself, your self-talk. Everybody's, we can always learn. Even in our wins, we can learn, and we can definitely learn in our losses. So it's just the way that you go about documenting it, the way you go about talking to yourself, and the way you go about your business. You got to be disciplined, you got to be consistent, you got to stay upbeat and positive and motivated. You got to be clear-headed. You got to come to the charts with no emotional baggage, and your full attention needs to be on what you're doing when you're ready to execute. So I really think this is overlooked. Not a lot of people's going to like this video because they've heard stuff a million times, but I promise you, if you take this advice, that it will help you out a lot more than a strategy would. Just because if you can manage your emotions and manage your risk when you're losing and stay in the game, that's the name of this game, is just staying in the game long enough to when a good trade comes, you're able to profit from it. Not blow up and having to use that on a combine. Why not have it on a funded account? Why not have it where it matters, where you can make some money? So I urge you to watch this, and to, I may sound like I'm rambling, it's kind of late, I'm tired, but I wanted to get this out because a proper mindset and having realistic expectations, meaning it's not going to happen overnight. It happened in like month 7 for me, and that's pretty quick. But at the time, I was renting a 1-bedroom apartment. I was walking to work. I didn't have a vehicle. I wasn't paying for a vehicle. I had the cheapest place in my town that I was living, and I had a decent job, and I was forward testing everything on these prop firms. And all the extra money that I had was going into prop firm challenges, was going into trading view accounts, or the subscriptions, or all that good stuff. But I was listening to ICT in my ear while I was working. I was studying, taking notes, back testing until I found some stuff that worked, and then I quit. But you have to, have the passion. You got to be motivated, but you have to be realistic with yourself. It takes a doctor 8 to 10 years before he's, gets out and becomes a doctor. Um, so if you look at it like you're going to school, 4, 6, 8, 10 years. If you get it earlier, that's fine, but do not put a timeline on yourself. And just know that your time will come, because if you don't quit, you have to win. So don't beat yourself up so much to where you want to quit. I'm praying for you. Um, Episode 3 will be out. I'm going to do it tomorrow night. I'm not sure what it's going to be about. I'm going to do some studying around, seeing what I need to go over, make sure I didn't miss anything. But a proper mindset and how you talk to yourself during the bad times is going to make all the difference for you. So God bless you, and good luck with your journey.